Brings me to my very special guest, Leane Flynn. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Pretty good. It's a bit early, but I've got the hat on, or the fascinator.
What do they
I'm
say?
here.
Put the horse before the cart or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's sometimes one of those
Make
mornings.
it till you make it. Mm.
Frocktober, it's a big thing for you. What does Frocktober mean to you?
Well, Frocktober is another opportunity for me to spread the word about ovarian cancer. It does it in a fun way, which is great because people tend to get more connected with it when it's a little bit of fun and they can get involved. And it's just a great opportunity to raise more money and awareness about ovarian cancer.
Before you got ovarian cancer, before you got diagnosed, any information given to you as a child, or even in the last 10 years, or
No.
were you aware of Frocktober, Ovarian
No.
Cancer Research Foundation? Nothing.
Nothing, no.
Yeah,
When I
right.
went to the doctor and she told me that I had ovarian cancer, I just sat there blankly because I just had no idea. I had no questions to ask. I didn't know anything about it. I was completely blank. Of course, I went home and Googled madly, which they tell you not to do, and you shouldn't probably do it. But I had no idea. Mm.
Right. So what were your signs that led you to go into the doctors?
Well, this is the scary part. At that point, I was 49, and I had noticed I was feeling bloated. So I thought, oh, it's menopause. That's sort of what everyone goes through. And that's what I had attributed that to. So that had sort of probably noticed that about 3 or 4 months before I was diagnosed. So not a long time, not a long lead time there.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then probably a month before I was diagnosed, I started noticing that I needed to urinate more frequently.
Right.
And that's what made me go to the doctors, because I thought, well, this isn't right. But even then, would never have considered it to be cancer, just thought it's some women's problem. Yeah, so I was completely shocked. That was it. In terms of symptoms, it's not like I overlooked any obvious symptoms. There were none.
Yeah. So everything was normal enough for you.
I was completely healthy. I was never unwell. The morning that I went for my scans, that were meant to be routine scans, just to eliminate anything sinister, I'd gone for a 10K walk. I was thinking I was perfectly healthy. I've always been very healthy. That's why it's just so frightening that this cancer can be out there that kills more women than any other gynecological cancer, and yet has no symptoms.
Is that your do you kind of to take on board just walking down the street if someone's talking about their menopause issues or something, just so you know.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to terrify people or women.
You don't.
Most women are terrified after speaking to me. Unfortunately, not the way I want to go about it. But having said that, if that's what it takes, but
Sure.
the reality is, if it's left to women to self-diagnose, we're clearly failing, because it's symptoms we all suffer from on a weekly, monthly basis. So that's why we need an early detection test, because if left for us to pick up ourselves, it just gets overlooked, which is why it's always found in the later stages.
Yeah. Can you remember the microseconds when you got told that you've got cancer? Have you got cancer in your family?
No, none
So
at all.
really separated from the word cancer or anything in your family?
Yes. And ovarian cancer has probably, I think, 10 to 15% are genetic. So most of them are random.
Right.
So that's the scary part. There is no history of it. And I have 3 daughters. They have no higher chance of getting ovarian cancer than any other woman. I had no higher chance of getting it than any other woman. And I do remember the exact moment I was told. And I think everybody who's been told they have cancer would. It's that life-changing. I've gone from being healthy to having cancer in a split second. I went to the doctor thinking everything was okay. I came home having to tell everyone that I actually was unwell and I had cancer. That's split second change in my thinking. It was hard to come to terms with.
Do you realign your thoughts on life when you get told cancer? Is there
Absolutely.
Is there a little bit of resistance of doing that first, because you don't want to, I guess, acknowledgement? There's a lot of, I guess, stages, and people in trauma training and help could probably speak about this more openly and accurately. But what was your process from shock to getting on top of it to far out? This is serious, life-threatening.
Well, I suppose human nature being what it is, you just assume that you're going to beat this thing, that it's not going to kill you. And even though statistically there is like a 20% chance of a 5-year survival for me, and my 5-year is looming this coming year, which is sort of hanging over me a little bit. I don't want to be a statistic, but it's there. But human nature is that you sort of believe that's not going to happen to you. And we all believe that every day. We always think it's not going to happen to me. So the initial being diagnosed was still such a shock. And I remember that it was a Friday, I was told, and that weekend, all our friends and family came around. This was when you could have friends and family to the house, came around and with food, as they do. And they're all sitting around talking and drinking and eating. And I was sitting at the table thinking, well, everyone's here for me because I have cancer. I just can't believe this. And then there was sort of this massive surgery and chemo to sort of get through. But I actually assumed I would get through it, I'd be okay, and that I could put it behind me and get on with my life. Naively, that is what I thought at that point. Unfortunately, ovarian cancer, when found in the later stages, has a 90% recurrence rate. So I still thought it's not going to happen to me.
Of course, you have to. You have to, don't you?
You have to live in hope. I still live with hope. Otherwise, I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. So 4 months later, the cancer came back. At that stage,
sorry, I missed that. How long?
4 months.
Right.
After going through the surgery and 6 months of chemo and being told that I had a clear bill of health, it came back 4 months later. And at that point, they're now telling me that it's incurable. And that I'll be in treatment for the rest of my life. So I'm about to start my 5th chemo in 4.5 years in a couple of weeks. So from then on, my whole perspective on life has changed, of course, but it's hard not to because I'm constantly in treatment and constantly surrounded with cancer. Not to say it's taken all the joy. In fact, if anything, it's probably highlighted the joy in my life, made me appreciate the good moments more than I would probably normally. I've just taken it for granted. So it has made me live my life with a sense of clarity, I guess, that it's there.
What are those things that you have now focused on that you may have neglected a little bit in the past or have told you to kind of, let's get moving on a few things? What are those areas?
Well, and that's the frustrating part for me with COVID because it's all about creating memories.
Sure.
So we were getting to the stage where we would organise every 6 weeks a weekend away. My daughters are 25, 22 and 17. So they were at a time when it wasn't really cool to go away with your parents for the weekend and they had better things to do with their time. But they have now, it's sort of made them grow up faster, but probably become better people because of it, because they've realised, hang on a minute, this is what's really important. So we do a lot of family dinners, we used to go away together a lot. And that's where I get frustrated because I feel like I've lost 2 years of my very short, limited lifespan has been spent. Now, having said that, the girls are around, so I still have spent time with them. But it's been hard with other family and friends that I haven't been able to spend that time with them if I feel like I'm running out of time.
It's tough. Is it tough? Is it tough day to day? Do you feel like you're still running a normal race when you're clearly not, but does it feel like you're just getting up and doing your thing and you know, everyone's fighting who's in the shower next and get them all, you know? Yeah.
We try to keep it as normal as possible, unless I have an appointment or something that I have to do, and that's my cancer day. I try to have my cancer-free days where I am just mum and I'm just the wife and we're all, you know, doing the groceries and just going through the motions. And I try to keep it as normal as possible. And I know there are days when I'm tired or I'm feeling not so great and the girls might sort of say, oh, they won't bother me with something, but I want them to bother me because I'm their mum and I want to be their mum. So it's important to keep that normality as much as possible.
Yeah. When did you first start getting involved in Froctober? Were you there? When did you get diagnosed? It was
April
4 years.
2017
Sure.
was when I was diagnosed. So I actually got involved in Froctober. That Froctober was my first. I got straight into it as soon as I realised how ridiculous it was that there was no early detection test, and that the funding, the treatments I'm receiving at the moment are the same treatments women got 30 years ago.
Right.
The lack of funding has meant that there's just been very little movement or change in ovarian cancer. And as soon as I became aware of that, I was onto it. And my oncologist recommended me to become an ambassador for the OCRF. And I jumped on it and thought, I want to get involved straight away. I want to do as much as I can. So it was from the get-go, 2017.
We had a medical professional, I think she doesn't mind me calling that, yesterday, Lisa, who founded Froctober. Have you met?
No, but I did watch the interview. Yes.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on the medical system, and how do you juggle, I guess, two hats particularly I want to talk about? One's providing hope and support to other cancer patients, but also you don't want to ignore the fact that there's no funding, and potentially down the rabbit hole there's some evil. I don't know, people that are restricting. I don't know what to believe sometimes. And I asked Lisa yesterday, she gave a very diplomatic answer because she's in the medical field. What's your thoughts on the medical side of things? And is there some dirty, dark evil going on down there that are making us buy pharmaceuticals?
Well, yes. Look, my experience with the medical profession has been, first of all, yes, they've kept me alive. So let's give them kudos for that. But in terms of the care, it has not been great. When I was first diagnosed, my GP said to me, you have a team of people working for you. You'll have your surgeon, you'll have your oncologist, you'll have your nurse, you'll have your dietitian, physio, psychologist, the whole works to make sure you get through this as well as possible. None of that happened. I had my surgeon who I met prior to surgery, and she did the surgery really well. And that was her focus. And then I haven't seen her since.
Right.
And then I have my oncologist who is focused on my blood and what's happening in there. I've never been, when they sent me home from hospital, they sent me home with this bag of drugs. I was in hospital for 3 weeks. The surgery was huge. A bag of drugs, and they said, and you're okay with injecting yourself, aren't you? Because I had to inject myself daily for 3 weeks after going home. I'd never injected myself before. They said, there's a YouTube video on it, just watch it.
Get out.
These were the things that I thought, this is where I thought this has to change. Holistic care is not there. How can, after a life-changing surgery, can you just send someone home and just say, off you go, and we'll see you when you turn up for chemo in 3 weeks? I was astounded at the lack of care, genuine care. And as much as I do get looked after physically, I don't think anyone, when I've gone for treatment, has ever asked me how I'm doing or anything like that. There's a lack, a big gap in the service there. I've really noticed that. And I'm in hospital constantly, and I continue to be amazed at how I feel like just a patient all the time.
It's still, wow. How, just give me a rough idea. How often have you been in there over the last 12 months?
Well, I was actually in hospital yesterday having surgery. And I've been in there every 3 weeks or weekly for 4 years. When I say constant treatment, I mean constant treatment. And I've been on a treatment because I have a port. They give you treatment in your chest because it's easier than getting veins. I go in every 3 weeks and have intravenously received a treatment, and that's now not working. My cancer markers are going up. So we're now looking at starting a chemo that I've already done previously because we've run out of treatment options. So we know that it's not going to be as successful because I've done it before. So I have to go on to a treatment that I know is going to make me really sick and not going to be all that successful, in the hope that it might buy me more time before. And when I finish that, I'll transition onto another treatment because the cancer is relentless and it keeps coming back, and they don't have any other treatment options for me. So I'm in hospital all the time.
This could be something that might be reserved for a 10-year-old to ask, but I'm going to ask it because that's sometimes the level of my IQ. Can you feel cancer?
Well, when I was diagnosed, obviously not, because I had no idea. Since then, I am spot on. I can say every recurrence that it's come back, I've had to say it's on my, at one time it was sort of just under my ribs because I couldn't take a deep breath. In fact, the simple pleasures, I couldn't sneeze for 3 months because every time I took a deep breath, it was like someone stabbing me. So and then the next time it came back, it was on my pelvis. I could put my finger right on it. There was the pain. It was, so since then I've become so in tune and I know exactly what's going on that I can sort of tell them what's happening most of the time. This time the cancer is spread all around my peritoneal lining. So it's harder. I can't pinpoint it because it's all around my stomach. So it's always moving. So some days I'll feel nearly normal. And then other days I'll have pain and feeling sick and nauseous, and that's the reminder. I suppose I pretend I don't have cancer, and that's the days that remind me that I'm not well. So yeah, you can feel it now. Yeah.
Holistic care. Thanks. There's some people just on the chat line. It's a live chat, just putting up hearts and emojis and things. But Angie, thank you for sharing, Leanne. Completely agree. We need more holistic care in our health system. Outside of the health system, anything interesting and weird or wonderful that you've tried that perhaps someone else hasn't heard of?
Well,
have you tried something wacko, like, I don't know, spag bowl extra chili works or something? I don't know.
I get sent, and because I share my story so openly on social media, I get lots of positive support, which has been fantastic. But I also am opened up to people telling me that I should eat like a kilogram of asparagus every day. Apple seeds are meant to be amazing. Don't eat sugar. I get lots of advice. And I always wonder when people send these things to me, if they had cancer, if they would actually follow it. Would someone eat a kilo of asparagus every day? Really, I don't know. And if it was that easy, wouldn't we all be doing it?
Sure.
So I have gone down like the integrative path where I've tried different alternative remedies. And I'm always open. Honestly, at this stage, if someone told me to stand on my head every day, I would do it. If it was going to work, I would try anything. But yes, I have heard lots. Everyone has a theory on what's going to prevent cancer. And look, they feel like they're doing the right thing by telling me. But it's pretty sort of out there.
Apple seeds.
Yeah.
Not the apple, just the seeds.
The seeds, yes. And drinking bicarb soda. Everyone says that's like poor man's chemo, that's referred to. So if you can imagine putting bicarb soda in a little bit of water and drinking that every day, and it's odd because I don't know how people think that if you're drinking something, it's going to actually get into your bloodstream and stop the cancer. I don't know how that works, but yet apparently it does.
It's the wild thing of like you got no cure yet, so you can't say that it won't work.
Yeah, look, as I said, I am fairly open to pretty much. I'm looking for a miracle right now. So if anyone's got a miracle, send it my way.
Alex Mickelson's one of the listeners, a good friend of mine, and also a cancer survivor. As also her daughter got cancer a few years later. We've had her on the show as well. The things you are going through sound so overwhelming. What do you do to remain so positive? You are amazing.
Oh, thank you. I just try to put it away. I have this box in the back and I just shove the cancer in there as much as I can. I go for a walk with my dog. I've got this gorgeous little toy poodle, Ted, and he's a bundle of joy. I go for a walk with him every day. I spend a lot of time with my daughters. I just do, I just do whatever I can to make the day as pleasurable as possible. And some days are more successful than others, but I guess every day I get up and I think that it's a good day because I am getting up and I'm getting out and I can go for that walk. I have a lot of friends that I've made through ovarian cancer circles, and a lot of them are not as fortunate as I am at this point that they can get up and go for a walk and just do simple things in their lives. So I just try to focus on what I can do right now, and and that makes me feel better, I guess, gets me through.
You are amazing. I agree. It's just incredible. I know we can't be in your shoes, but it does give perspective. And I think that's the point, isn't it? To keep speaking and be loud and wear your frock and charm up the
Yes.
day, and if you can do it, then what have I got? What am I doing? What am I doing?
I want a better hat tomorrow.
Complaining about my hay fever yesterday. I just feel useless.
Oh no, and that's,
anyway.
I have a lot of friends who say they don't want to share their problems with me
Sure.
because I know that our ongoing joke is whenever anyone tells me that something's going wrong, we always say, well, if it's a competition, I'd win. But
Sure.
But having said that, I still want to be there for people. And so whatever problem is going on is still a valid problem. And it is about perspective, I know, but that doesn't mean that there are still, I'm living with this terminal cancer, but there's still days where I get road rage in the car and I get angry, annoyed with the lady at the grocery store. So, like, we're still human beings and life does take over. And I have to bring it back sometimes myself and think life's too short to be worrying about this. It's normal.
We're talking about for October as well, and we really want to do as much as we can. We've had a few donations come in, but we are trying to hit $1,000 as part of the RGR, our little channel we're doing. How important?
Thank you.
How important is just for October and the work that Ovarian Cancer Research Foundation do? And they are speak about where the funds go, if you do know. But I mean, what does OCRF do?
Well, the OCRF are the largest fundraiser in Australia, and they have contributed the most money towards research for ovarian cancer. So that is what attracted me to them, because the research is absolutely the key. If we find an early detection test, there's a 90% survival rate as opposed to the 20% 5-year survival rate we're living with right now.
Wow.
So the OCRF, they've just been so wonderful. Everyone I've worked with there are so passionate about getting money to where it's needed, which is to the research. And to give you an example of how specific the money goes directly to the cause, I know a lot of people worry about these not-for-profits and fundraisers, how much money actually gets to where it needs to go. My husband was involved in a bike ride to raise funds for OCRF a couple of years ago before COVID. And they had to reject a really valid research project because they didn't have the funding. Right. And after the ride, they raised, it was something like $60,000, something that was spectacular. And Lucinda Nolan, who is the CEO of the OCRF, lots of letters there, she was able to say, okay, we can give that research project the go-ahead now. We can fund it. We have the money. So for everyone there to know that their money was going straight into a research project that was desperately needed was amazing. So the money goes straight to the projects. And there's so many, they've got a lot on the go for early detection, but also for women like me, they've got a lot of projects for ongoing treatments so that they can understand why we get resistant to chemo, how we can continue with our treatments, long-term treatment options, so that ovarian cancer will not be a death sentence, but it will be like a chronic disease. That's the goal. Obviously, they can eradicate it completely. That would be wonderful. But realistically, there is still going to be people, even with the detection test, who may not do the test. So if they can make it something that you can live with rather than die with. And that's what their goal is. So, yeah, I can't speak highly enough about the Ovarian Cancer Research Foundation.
Well, I hope people are digging into their pockets today.
Money's definitely going to the right place, and it's a great cause. And we need all the money we can get. For some reason, the government are reluctant. It's like getting blood out of a stone to get funding for ovarian cancer. I don't know whether it's because it's such a long-term project, it's such a hard battle, but we need funding.
It's a danger, isn't it? Governments want instant results to stay popular instead of investing in something that's been around for a really long time.
Yes.
Disappointing about that. But and my lovely wife has jumped on. Signs that you particularly would go, hey, just go get that checked out, or is it just all signs?
Well, it's unfortunately it is, and when I say this, women are going to freak out, but it is things like heartburn, bloating, lower back pain, change in toilet habits. Now, as I've said, these are things we all suffer from all the time. But if you are suffering from it consistently for over 3 or 4 weeks, I would suggest then perhaps it wouldn't hurt. What can it hurt? Go to the doctor and just get it checked out. There is the only definitive way of diagnosing ovarian cancer is surgery right now. So most women are not going to run in to have that. But, I had an ultrasound and a blood test. And that was because the tumours were so large when they were found with me, there was no question that there was ovarian cancer there. But if you could, find it a little bit earlier, anything's got to help survival.
Yep. Leanne, thank you so much for joining us today. I don't know how it feels to talk about this ongoingly, but look, you agreed to it, but thanks.
I actually find it therapeutic
to
talk about it. I do. It just helps me feel like it's not all happening for nothing, that I have got a purpose. If this is it, I'll do it. So yeah, I'm happy to do it. And thank you for inviting me to come along and speak.
Oh, that's okay. I have got one more question actually. Has that been part of your strengthening and healing and I guess direction of positivity, starting to turn it into something that helps others?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's why I jumped on so quickly, because I felt so powerless and
Yes.
so out of control. And in medically speaking, I am powerless. I have no control over what happens to me, but I can control this. And
Yes.
that has been incredibly empowering for me. Yeah.
That's so encouraging. And I think everyone's got something to share and a story that
Yes.
helps others, small or big. It doesn't have to be as
No.
serious as
Life-changing
this.
as cancer. No.
We have. Leanne, absolute honour and privilege to have you on here, and I'm going to be enjoying watching this back in a few weeks' time and just recapping. You're so good on air.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
That's okay.
And
bringing the colour.
and let's make it a good Frocktober.
I know, it's so good. And stick around if you want and listen to some 90s tunes. But thanks once again, Leanne.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thanks.
You're the best.
Bye.